video, we're going to show you how you can add a site-to-site VPN on the ASA firewall. Now, once it is all configured, basically when we go to Configuration, down to Site-to-Site VPN, this is where all the details will be present at. Now, honestly, it's a little confusing. You see things like connection profiles, group policies, and configuring this manually will be a nightmare, so do not do that. So just like our client VPN solutions, it is recommended to use the VPN wizards. It will go by a whole lot faster and make the configuration definitely work. So let's get started. We want to add a new site-to-site VPN to another firewall or router somewhere on the internet. So we'll go to Wizards, VPN Wizards, and then to Site-to-Site VPN Wizard. We'll say Next. Here we'll specify the peer IP address. This is the IP address of the firewall on the other side. And of course, the VPN will be terminated from our WAN-facing interface. Say Next. Basically, we can allow support for both versions of IPSec version 1 and IPSec version 2. But to keep things simple, we're going to only use IPSec version 1 for establishing our VPN tunnel. So we'll say Next. Now it says traffic to protect. Now basically we're saying what networks will talk to what other networks using the VPN tunnel. So we want our LAN to basically access the remote network using the VPN tunnel. So we need to specify our local network. So to kind of speed things up, we can click here to browse and select the default object here for the LAN, which basically represents our 10.67.78.0. This is our local network. So we're going to say OK. And the remote network, which is the network on the other side, behind the other firewall that we will establish the VPN tunnel with, that will be 172.16.00/16. So basically, in summary, if we have a computer or server on 10.67.78, and we want to talk to a server or a desktop or any other device on the 172.16 network, it will use this VPN tunnel that we are trying to set up. So we'll click on Next to continue. Now the authentication methods. So we need to basically use either a certificate or a pre-shared key. So very commonly a pre-shared key is usually set up. So we're going to do the same thing. So we're going to create a pre-shared key. We'll type that in here. And keep in mind, it must be the same on both ends of the firewall or VPN devices, by the way. It can't be different passwords. Have to be the same pre-shared key. Now we go down to the encryption algorithms. This is for both the ISAKIM policy or IKE policy and for the IPSec proposals. This is definitely the most important. When I'm troubleshooting VPN issues for various clients or other consultants, the issue of why a VPN tunnel does not come up is because of mismatched policies or proposals that's happening for ISAKIM or for IPSec. So basically, you need to determine which encryption is going to be used. It's going to be triple DES or AES. You need to determine the hash algorithm. It's going to be SHA or MD5. And it must be the same on both ends of the VPN devices. So if they're different even by a little bit, it's not going to work. So in our environment, we're going to keep this really nice and simple. We're going to do the following. We're going to use only triple DES and MD5 for our encryption algorithms. So first, starting with our IKE policy, we can basically go to Manage. And this is the current policy that exists by default, which is the triple DES SHA for the hash algorithm, the pre-share for authentication, and so forth. So I'm going to add a new policy here. So here, we're going to specify triple DES and MD5. And say OK. So now we have these two potential policies that can be used for our phase 1 of the VPN tunnel being built. So let's say OK. And now on to the IPSec proposals. Now, it provides a lot of proposals, you can tell, a whole lot. And our one that we definitely need is listed here. But we want to kind of clean this up a whole lot more though. So we're going to actually remove most of this junk here. So let's remove everything there, leaving only our triple DES and MD5. I'm going to say OK. So basically, once again, this has to be the same on the other side of the VPN device. Make sure that you definitely keep that in mind. So let's say next to continue. And here we're going to exempt the ASA from address translation. So basically that means our LAN for the 10.67.78.0 network talking to that 172.16 network on the remote side, we want to exempt that from being NATed, which means do not use NAT when you're routing across this VPN tunnel. If you do not check this, the VPN tunnel is not going to work. It will be built, but no traffic is going to occur. So make sure this is checked, okay? Now, once we're done with that, we can go ahead and say next. So we're done. This is a summary, so we can say finish and start building the configuration. So now the VPN tunnel has been configured on the ASA firewall. Now, let's test some things out here. So we have our DOS prompt here. We're on the computer, of course, our computer here, that's allowing us to access the HDM. We're going to try to ping an IP on that remote network to bring up that VPN tunnel. So we're going to ping 172.16.9.2. Great, we can ping that address. So it's routing across our VPN tunnel. So we have that running, have a continuous ping. Let's go to home, and basically you see that we have one VPN session established, which is fantastic. Let's click here on details here. And basically here, what we can do from this point, we can basically select here, say filter by, and go to IPSec site to site here. And this shows actually our single VPN tunnel and all the particular details, even the amount of traffic transmitted and received, even the duration of that VPN tunnel. And further details of the policies, proposals, everything that's used for that VPN tunnel. Very good for troubleshooting purposes. So basically, this is how you can configure a site-to-site VPN tunnel on the ASA firewall to another VPN device. In this video, we're going to configure a remote access solution for clients using IPSec VPN. So to do that, we're going to use our VPN wizards that's available to us. So to access that wizard, we'll go to Wizards, VPN Wizards, then towards the bottom here. Our VPN tunnel will be established from our WAN interface that's connected towards the internet. So that's selected by default. So we're going to say next to continue. For the VPN client type, we will use the Cisco VPN client application that will be installed on our client machines for connecting to use this remote access solution via IPSec. So that's the default. So we're going to say next to continue. Now this information here for the VPN client authentication method, these are the details that we need to input within our VPN client once this is all set up. So first we need to define the pre-shared key that will be used. So we'll set that up now. And we're going to define our tunnel group name. Now this name is called the group authentication name that will also be used during the configuration of our VPN client. So we'll show you that in the next video. So we'll say next. Now users will be authenticated using LDAP with our Active Directory environment. So we'll say next. Once users are authenticated into the ASA successfully, they will be assigned an IP address. Now this pool is already configured from our SSL VPN solution, so we have the option of creating a new address pool or using the existing. So we'll use the existing and say next to continue. Next are the attributes we want to push down to our VPN client, and we can input our DNS server now. We'll say our AD server, which is .190, and we'll say next. For the IPE policy, we can specify the encryption, authentication, DH group. So we'll say next. And next are the IPsec settings. So basically, we need to specify which networks our VPN users should communicate with. So we're going to click on the exempt networks here, and we're going to select our LAN and our DMZ networks. So that's our DMZ. Let's move that so you can see it, and let's select our LAN. So these are the two networks that our VPN users will be able to access, and also means will be disabled for any NAT translation. So we need to make sure that we specify that. And we're going to enable split tunneling, which basically means that our VPN users can access those networks for the LAN and the DMZ. For the DH group, we're going to specify DH group number 2 and say next. So we're done. This is a summary, and we'll say finish. So now we have configured another remote access solution using IPSec VPN this time. Once we completed our client VPN solution using IPSec, we're now on our laptop, which is connected to the internet, and we have our Cisco VPN client application installed. So now let's go ahead and launch that application now on our laptop, which is here. So now it's coming up. Keep in mind this is a fresh install, so there should be no entries present. I want to show you how to add new entries. Great. Let's move this here. Now let's click on New. For this connection entry, we're going to call this Route Hub VPN. Next, we're going to specify the public IP of our ASA firewall that we will connect to. And next, we have the group authentication. Now, this is what we set up for one of the options during the wizard. So for the name, this will be called Route Hub-VPN, if you remember, the tunnel group name. Then we will type in our pre-shared key that we set up, which was Cisco 123. Great. On the transport tab, this is pretty much the default that is enabled for transparent tunneling. Now, for most devices, you will likely be behind a router or a firewall enabled for PAT, which is one-to-many. So that will use IPSec over UDP for connecting, well, nicely for the client VPN session. So definitely recommend it, leave that checked. There's other options for enabling IPSec over TCP if that is configured on the firewall. But in our case, we're going to leave this alone and use IPSec over UDP for connecting. And there's other tabs here, but we're pretty much done here. So let's save the connection entry and let's connect. We'll log in with our credentials. So we'll log in with my account, which is mtamati, and then I'll input my password. Great, so now we're connecting. And we're connected. So when we click here, you see the little yellow lock. That means we are connected. So let's right click here and go to statistics. Now this will provide a lot of good information and details, such as the client IP address that's assigned to us, which is 189.11. You see the amount of packets that are being received, being sent, what packets are being encrypted or decrypted, and so forth. What encryption, what authentication we're using, the transport that we're using, how long we've been connected for. Great information. When we click on the route details, you see the actual networks that we can communicate with, the secure routes, which is our DMZ and our LAN. So if we open up our DOS prompt and let's ping one of our computers, let's say on our LAN, the .199 XP computer, for example, that's pingable and it's running across our VPN. And of course, you notice the packets, the encrypted and decrypted increment. Great. So basically, once we're kind of done with our VPN session here, we can basically close this out, go to the lock, right click and go to disconnect to log out. So basically, you've seen how we could basically set up our client VPN on our laptop for connecting to the ASA, how we could look at the statistics for the details of packets being sent, received, encrypted, decrypted, and other great details, including looking at what routes we can route to securely across our VPN tunnel. For our client VPN solution using IPSec, we can actually use the ASDM page to view the number of IPSec sessions on the ASA firewall, but that could pertain to either client or the site VPNs. So for example, here we have our user connected. You can see on the dashboard page under VPN sessions here that we have one session established for IPSec. Now that could either mean a site or a client VPN session, so you need to keep that in mind. Well, we can get more details by clicking on, well, details. So we'll click on that now, and that will show the following details. It will show that for one, we have a username of mtamati. Using this particular group policy, which is Route Hub VPN, the IP that's assigned to our laptop, the protocol or encryption details, even how long we've been logged on to, and stuff about our clients, even the version of the VPN client that we're using. And basically we can also filter by IPSec remote access. So this can provide details of who is connected using IPSec, for example. So another thing we can do here is make sure that the account is selected, that session, and I can basically log that person out of the ASA firewall. So that's basically how you can monitor VPN sessions or client VPN sessions for users connected and how you can actually log them out of the firewall if needed. One of the requirements if using the SSL VPN solution for remote access, especially in tunnel mode, is that we need to have the Cisco AnyConnect VPN client application installed on our computer. Now we can do this actually in two ways. First, we need to get the software, which you get it from Cisco.com. And the software could either be pre-installed on your computer, so there are files presented that you can actually install, like an installer, have that pre-installed, or you can download the package file. And the package file you can upload to the ASA flash, so when users log on for the very first time, it will automatically download the necessary software, unpackage it, and install the program automatically on your computer. So it keeps it nice and simple for kind of maintaining the AnyConnect application for your users. So we're going to show you exactly how you can access this software from Cisco.com, so there's no confusion of how you can access the particular AnyConnect packages. So make sure that you're logged on with a valid CCO Cisco account. Please keep that in mind. And once we're logged on, we need to go to support. Go to download software. Here we're going to go to products. We'll go to security. There it is. And instead of firewall, we're going to go to VPN, which is here. Next, we're going to go to client VPNs, and then to AnyConnect VPN client here. You're going to click here, the only link present. And this reflects all possible AnyConnect packages we can install. Now there's a lot of them presented. We have a lot of different images for what is FIPS enabled, images for Windows, for Macintosh, even for Linux, by the way. We're locating the Windows package. So we're locating that. As you can tell, there's a lot of images. There we go. We're going to download that particular package for Windows. Proceed with the download. And then download. So basically, this is the image or the package that we need to install on our computer prior to configuring SSL VPN as a remote access solution on our ASA firewall. In our video series, we're going to configure two remote access solutions, one using SSL VPN and another using IPSec VPN. Let's first begin by configuring SSL VPN as a solution for clients to connect in. Now to do that, and what we talked about during the presentation video, that is recommended to use the VPN wizards for creating, well, all your VPN connections for clients or even for sites. Because configuring that manually through the AZM will be very confusing. If it's command line, it's very simple. It's really based on a template. You change that template that matches your environment and you're done. It's a lot more simplified. But using the AZM, it is strongly recommended to use the wizards. So before we get down to that, let's first go to configuration. And then let's go down to remote access VPN. Now here is providing a very quick summary of the different remote access solutions that we can configure on the ASA firewall. Two are SSL VPN solutions. One could be clientless, or one we're using a client. And of course, here we have our IPSec VPN for remote access. For the client-based solutions for IPSec, that will use the Cisco VPN client application. If it's the tunnel mode or the client app for SSL VPN, that will use the Cisco AnyConnect client. This is the one we're going to configure and show you in this video series, since that is very commonly configured and desired for a remote access solution. So let's start our configuration now. So we're going to basically begin by going to wizards here, VPN wizards, and then to AnyConnect VPN wizard. Next, we're going to say next. For the connection profile name, we're going to call this Route Hub, something simple. And of course, the VPN access interface would be our untrusted or the internet facing interface, which is our WAN interface, which is selected by default. So we'll say next. For the VPN protocols, we could allow SSL or even IPSec, so we can enable both. But first we need to specify the device certificate. So this is required. And right now there are none created. So we're going to create one right now. So we're going to say manage. We're going to say add. Then here we're going to go down and say add a new identity certificate. Then we're going to click over here. This is new. We're going to enter a new key pair name. We're going to call it something like RHG-key pair or KP. We can specify the size we want, but we'll keep it at 1024 and we'll say generate now. Great. Next, we will generate a self-signed certificate. Check this, and then let's go ahead and add that certificate. Great, enrollment succeeded. So we'll say OK. And now that is selected for our device certificate. So now we'll say next. Now we're going to add the particular client images. So basically, since we're using the tunnel mode, that requires the Cisco AnyConnect client. So we need to specify or actually upload that image to our ASA firewall. Now we have that already on our computer right now. So here we're going to select upload, and we're going to basically specify the local file path of our AnyConnect image and what will be shown in our flash. So once we input the details, we can say upload the file to the flash. Great, so the file has been uploaded. So we say OK. And this is the image that will be used when our clients log in and basically have this application automatically installed on their computer. So basically, it's not like the IPSec VPN solution where it requires it to be installed prior to connecting. So here we can basically go to our web page, we log in, and through the login process, it can automatically download and install this AnyConnect client. So that's a very big benefit here. We can add other images here, by the way, not just for Windows, but also for Macintosh systems, so that we have the option of adding additional images or client images as we see fit. But in our case, we're good. We only have Windows systems in our environment. So we're going to go ahead and click on Next to continue. For the authentication method, we're going to authenticate using LDAP against Active Directory, which we set up in a separate video. So we select our LDAP, looks good, and we're going to say Next. Next is the client address assignment. So once we are logged on successfully using one of our 80 accounts, then basically it's going to assign an IP address to our machine. So right now there are no address pools configured, so we're going to add a new one. For the name here, we're going to configure a name. So let's say something like Route Hub Group Pool-VPN. And we're going to specify our starting IP and our ending IP using a different subnet, but keep in mind. We'll use the 189 as the actual ID for our subnet. And it'll be a small kind of subnet that we'll hand out. And for our mask, let's say a classy, keep it simple. And let's say OK. Once that is good, we'll click on Next. Next is basically the attributes we're going to push down to the client once they're authenticated. For DNS, for WINS. So for our DNS, we'll type in the .190, our AD server, and WINS and our domain name if needed. Here for the NAT exempt, we're going to check here, and basically we want the following. Once our VPN users are connected, we want them to be able to access our DMZ and our LAN networks. Now those have to be excluded for any NAT translation, because if they're going to be NATed, it's not going to work. So they need to be exempt. So we need to specify those networks. So to do that, we can simply go to here for local networks and click to browse. And these are the default objects here. There's our LAN, okay, and then up here's our DMZ. So we can basically double click on the DMZ and let's double click on our LAN. So now both of those networks are added here, part of our local network. So we'll say OK. And once it's been checked, we'll say OK. And let's say next again for the allow the web launch. This provides a summary, so we'll say finish. So now we're finished. Make sure that's applied and make sure we have saved everything correctly. So we have configured our first remote access solution using SSL VPN. Once we are finished with our SSL VPN configuration on the ASA firewall, let's now confirm that we can log in. So we are now on our laptop, which is plugged in directly to the internet and running Windows 7. So to launch our connection to the ASA firewall using SSL VPN, we can simply just go to any web browser. So let's go to Internet Explorer and we'll type in HTTPS followed by the public IP or domain of our ASA firewall. Great, we're connected. Let's continue. And keep in mind that this is the default SSL VPN page. Nothing here has been customized. We will show you how you could do that in a separate video. So basically, let's go ahead and log in using our Microsoft credentials. Let's use my account, which is mtamati, and I put in my password. Let's log in. Great, we are authenticated. So now we're going to go through the process of downloading and installing the AnyConnect VPN client on our laptop. Please keep in mind that this is going to happen for any person who logs on for the very first time. It's going to download the software, it's going to install it, it's going to actually download the default policy or profile. So all this is going to happen for the very first time. But the next time we connect, it should be very, very quick. Just keep that in mind. And we're getting closer. Great, profile is being downloaded, and now we're getting connected or being established to the ASA firewall. Great, now we are connected. So let's go ahead and minimize. Let's actually close this out. We're done here. So this basically means that we are connected to the ASA using SSL VPN. Now let's go ahead and right click here. Oops, try it again. And let's go to Open AnyConnect. So here we see a lot of good details. One, we see that we're connected, of course. The IP and the bytes sent and received. Very good information. Under connection, not much here except to disconnect the VPN session. Let's go back to statistics and go to details. So this will provide a lot of good information in terms of that we're connected, that all traffic, internet, or our internal networks like the LAN, guest, DMZ, for example, will all be routed across our VPN tunnel. So this provides all details of traffic and even our security that we're using. Under route details here, under secured routes, you see that the destination and the subnet mask reflects all zeros. Now this means that everything that we are doing right now is routing across the VPN tunnel. If we're accessing a website like facebook.com, we're going across the VPN tunnel. If we're accessing our servers or desktops within that network behind the ASA firewall, we're using the VPN tunnel. So basically, split tunneling is not enabled on this ASA firewall, or no options presented during the wizard. But we'll show you that in a different video. We want to kind of show you here that by default and going through the wizard for the secure routes, everything basically shows all zeros, which means everything is being routed across that SSL VPN tunnel. Just keep that in mind. And of course, under the firewall details, we have the option of setting up various firewall policies that we really need to, but we're not going to really focus with that. So basically, again, this is what the route details looks like for the secured routes. And we're going to change that shortly in a different video. So let's kind of test things out. We're going to ping a computer on our LAN, which is the 199 computer. And it's pingable. So basically we are able to route to this computer across our VPN tunnel that's established. So basically we have confirmed that SSL VPN is working from our laptop or from any client connected to the internet for accessing resources behind our ASA firewall. When we were connected to our SSL VPN solution from our laptop, we showed you under the route details for the secure routes that everything reflected zeros. Now that meant that everything that we did on our laptop was routed across the VPN tunnel. That means internet traffic or even company type traffic to our LAN or DMZ or any other network that can exist. Now, one thing that we want to enable is the use of split tunneling. And we talked about this during the presentation video in terms of terminology. Now, split tunneling means that we can define which subnets that will actually be routed across our VPN tunnel. So that means that if our users are connected and they're accessing servers in the DMZ or they're accessing their computer in the LAN, that will use the VPN tunnel only. If a person is checking their email or going to Facebook and uploading pictures, that will use their own network or internet connection, not routed across the VPN tunnel. So depending on the security engineer that you speak with, some people will say absolutely, split tunneling should never be enabled. Everything should be routed through the VPN tunnel to be enforced by some kind of a NAC appliance or IPS. Absolutely though. Others will argue, well no, the VPN tunnel should only be used for traffic that is interesting. That means interesting to the actual company that is deploying it, for emails or company applications, etc. though. So for me, where do I stand? I definitely always push and recommend implementing split tunneling for any remote access solution. This includes some deployments that I have done even for the government, for the Department of Energy. Basically, certain traffic needs to go through it, not everything. So again, either or can definitely work. So this video is focused on how do you enable split tunneling for SSL VPN users who are going to connect. Because by default, when we went through the VPN wizard, there were no options available, unfortunately though. So this particular video is the manual process for how you can enable split tunneling. Now with IPSec as a client solution, split tunneling is an option that we can select during the wizard, and you will see that. So how do we enable split tunneling? So what we want to do is basically the following. Our users, once connected using SSL VPN, we want them to only access the LAN and the DMZ opening across the VPN tunnel. So that's what we want to accomplish. Well, how do we do that? So this is where things are going to get a little confusing. So basically, from the Remote Access VPN tab, you first need to go to the Network Client Access. Next, we go to Group Policies. And here you see the Group Policy Route Hub. This has been automatically created during the VPN wizard. So that is selected, and let's go to Edit, which is here. Now we'll go to Advanced, and let's go to Split Tunneling. For policy, we're going to uncheck this for inherit, and we want to tunnel. As you can see, the default is tunnel all networks. We don't want to do that. So we're going to specify tunnel the network list below. So right below, we're going to uncheck this, and we're going to create a new network list policy. Now, we're going to add a new ACL, and we're going to call this split tunnel. Great. Now we're going to create a couple ACE or ACEs. The first one, we're going to select our first network, which is our DMZ network, and say OK. And we're going to do the same for our LAN network. Great. And of course, we can add other networks that we pretty much want to be routed across the VPN tunnel. It's your choice. But in our environment, LAN DMZ, we want to be routed across our VPN tunnel once it is established. So in our case, we're done. So we're going to go ahead and click on OK. We're going to say OK again, and then apply the changes, and then save. So basically, this is how we can enable split tunneling with our SSL VPN remote access solution. When we were connected to our SSL VPN solution from our laptop, we showed you under the route details for the secure routes that everything reflected zeros. Now that meant that everything that we did on our laptop was routed across the VPN tunnel. That means internet traffic or even company type traffic to our LAN or DMZ or any other network that can exist. Now, one thing that we want to enable is the use of split tunneling. And we talked about this during the presentation video in terms of terminology. Now, split tunneling means that we can define which subnets that will actually be routed across our VPN tunnel. So that means that if our users are connected and they're accessing servers in the DMZ or they're accessing their computer in the LAN, that will use the VPN tunnel only. If a person is checking their email, going to Facebook and uploading pictures, that will use their own network or internet connection, not routed across the VPN tunnel. So depending on the security engineer that you speak with, some people will say absolutely, split tunneling should never be enabled. Everything should be routed through the VPN tunnel to be enforced by some kind of a NAC appliance or IPS. Absolutely though. Others will argue, well no, the VPN tunnel should only be used for traffic that is interesting. That means interesting to the actual company that is deploying it, for emails or company applications, etc. So for me, where do I stand? I definitely always push and recommend implementing split tunneling for any remote access solution. This includes some deployments that I have done even for the government, for the Department of Energy. basically certain traffic needs to go through it, not everything. So again, either or can definitely work. So this video is focused on how do you enable split tunneling for SSL VPN users who are going to connect. Because by default, when we went through the VPN wizard, there were no options available, unfortunately though. So this particular video is the manual process for how you can enable split tunneling. Now with IPSec as a client solution, split tunneling is an option that we can select during the wizard, and you will see that. So how do we enable split tunneling? So what we want to do is basically the following. Our users, once connected using SSL VPN, we want them to only access the LAN and the DMZ opening across the VPN tunnel. So that's what we want to accomplish. Well, how do we do that? So this is where things are going to get a little confusing. So basically, from the Remote Access VPN tab, you first need to go to the Network Client Access. Next, we go to Group Policies. And here you see the Group Policy Route Hub. This has been automatically created during the VPN wizard. So that is selected, and let's go to Edit, which is here. Now we'll go to Advanced, and let's go to Split Tunneling. For policy, we're going to uncheck this for Inherit, and we want to tunnel. As you can see, the default is tunnel all networks. We don't want to do that. So we're going to specify tunnel the network list below. So right below, we're going to uncheck this, and we're going to create a new network list policy. Now, we're going to add a new ACL, and we're going to call this Split Tunnel. Great. Now we're going to create a couple ACE or ACEs. The first one, we're going to select our first network, which is our DMZ network, and say OK. And we're going to do the same for our LAN network. Great. And of course, we can add other networks that we pretty much want to be routed across the VPN tunnel. It's your choice. But in our environment, LAN DMZ, we want to be routed across our VPN tunnel once it is established. So in our case, we're done. So we're going to go ahead and click on OK. We're going to say OK again, and then apply the changes, and then save. So basically, this is how we can enable split tunneling with our SSL VPN remote access solution. On the Cisco ASDM interface, we can actually monitor the number of VPN sessions, whether they're IPSec or even SSL VPN. We can monitor who is connected, the details about that person, like their username that they use to authenticate, even the IP address that's assigned to them, among other great details. Now here on our dashboard, you will see that we have one user connected using the AnyConnect or SSL VPN solution. So we can definitely see that. Or if it was IPSec, those details will be presented here. But we'll be talking about that in a separate video when we configure IPSec for our client solution and for our site solution. So one thing at a time. So in terms of our SSL VPN, we have one user connected, but we can get more details by simply going to details here. Now here, under monitoring, we can actually filter by AnyConnect client. Now this shows basically the following details here. We can actually see that we have one user connected using the username of mtamati. This is my account that we showed you from the last video when we actually authenticated. We see the IP address that's assigned to our laptop and other details about that connection, even the amount of traffic that has been transmitted and received across that VPN tunnel, even how long we've been logged on to the ASA firewall using the solution. So a lot of good information we can actually reference here for the client connected. Going to details, we can get more information that is needed, more about the type, more about the encryption, and again, more details about the bytes transmitted, received, and of course, a whole lot of good information we can actually look at. But you probably spend very minimal time here of looking at any particular details unless you're looking at something specifically though. So I don't really spend my time here, but it's good to know that this information does exist. So basically we can go ahead and close this out. So let's do that now. So one good example is that I tell people, or people tell me, is how can I kick people out? So first, make sure that account is highlighted, that session. Then we go to log out, and now that person is completely logged out. So basically, that's how you can monitor SSL VPN sessions on the ASA firewall, including how you can log out users from the ACM interface under the monitoring option. There's one particular issue that comes up when you're using the default licensing for SSL VPN users on the ASA firewall. This is a very common problem. I have many different clients that actually have a Cisco 5505 or really any model, and they try to connect in using SSL VPN and certain things are not working. Now the unfortunate reality is you can't tell from the client perspective. You just assume that, okay, maybe my password is wrong. So here's what we're talking about before we get down to what is really happening behind the scenes. So we're on our laptop and we want to log on. You know, we want to check our email. We want to update some data in our company's application, whatever it may be, right? So what do? Well, we're just going to log in. So we're going to go ahead and log in with our credentials now, like we have always done before. And basically it says login failed. Now you can look at this and go, okay, maybe I typed in the wrong password, maybe it expired. It doesn't provide a lot of good information here. But we're going to show you exactly behind the scenes what's really going on. Okay, so from our laptop, pretending to be a potential user, trying to log in to do something on the network, they get the login failed. Now we know the next logical step. They're going to contact you, whether it's via email, a phone call, or through some other support means for opening up a trouble ticket. And the issue that's going to be reported is login failed. Now I know what you're thinking. The next logical step for troubleshooting is, well, maybe their password has expired. Maybe their account has locked out since this is integrated with Active Directory. Anything is possible, right? So you're going to kind of troubleshoot that particular path. And that's possible. You can definitely do that as the next step. But before you do that, it's recommended to look at the syslog messages on the ASA firewall to see if there's anything else going on that could potentially cause this issue. So here on our dashboard page, we can go here and scroll up towards the most recent events. So scroll up. And we see something. It says session cannot be established, session limit of 2 reached. That explains why we can't log in. And of course here we see that we have 2 VPN sessions or 2 SSL VPN sessions already established. So that probably reflects the 2 sessions reached. So how do we even know the actual license or the max of sessions on our ASA firewall to begin with? Well, it's simple. We can do this actually in a few ways. We can go to configuration. Under remote access VPN, we can go to advanced and go down to maximum VPN sessions. Here shows maximum AnyConnect sessions of 2. Okay. Another way is under device management. Let's close this up and go to licensing and then go to activation key. Here for running licenses, we can actually kind of scroll down. Great, and here you will see that we have a total of 2 of AnyConnect premium peers. So that also reflects the maximum number of SSL VPN users that can be established. So that's another way of actually looking at that. So how do we actually kind of resolve this problem? Well, keep in mind that resolving this problem is really just a band-aid because you're not solving the real problem. But how can you actually resolve this problem for like another user that needs to log on very quickly? Well, as the band-aid solution, we can go to monitoring, which is up here. Let's go down to VPN. And under sessions here, we can actually filter by AnyConnect client. There's our user that's connected, consuming both licenses. So basically, we can log them out. And doing that can now allow other people to log in. But keep in mind that it's going to repeat the problem if another person tries to log in. So as the real solution, if you are using SSL VPN as your primary remote access solution, purchase the necessary licenses for concurrent users. So that is strongly recommended. If you don't want to do it, then you can consider the client-based IPSec solution, which we will show you in this particular video series. In this video, we're going to show you how you can customize the SSL VPN portal page. Now, if you remember when we logged on for the very first time from our laptop, that you saw the generic page. You saw the Cisco logo, you saw the generic text of SSL VPN service, basic colors, basic everything. So the question is, how can I customize that portal page to reflect my company's information? like the company logo or a particular text, changing different colors. Well, we're going to show you that. We're going to do it for our company, RouteHub. So to do that, first make sure that you're under Configuration and Remote Access VPN. Now we're going to go to Client List SSL VPN Access, and then down to Portal. Then down to Customization. So these are the default objects or default customization objects that exist. One of them contains that generic page. So we're going to add a new object. Let's move this down. I'm going to call this RHG. And this will be for our connection profile called RouteHub that we created during our VPN wizard. Now, let's start with the logon page here. So this is the default text, if you remember. And we're going to change this to RHG space SSL VPN and no service. Now, let's go to the title panel. And for the text here, let's say RouteHub this time, space SSL VPN. We want to show you different text, so when we go to the actual web page or the portal again, you can see exactly where the changes were made. So now we can also do things like change, let's say, maybe the font color. Let's change to like a dark gray or like maybe a black color here. And we can change things like our background color, and let's say like a particular, like a light gray color. Once we're done with any changes, we can go ahead and say OK. Let's apply. And now let's go on to the next step. Now we're going to add our company logo. So to do that, with our created object of RHG, let's go to Edit. Make sure that's highlighted. Let's go to Edit. Let's go back to Title Panel. And here under Logo Image, this is the default. It says Cisco Logo. So let's go to Manage. And let's go to Import. At the bottom here, we need to say No for this option for destination. That's very important, by the way. And now we need to specify the actual path of our company logo. So let's do that now. Once we're done with that, everything looks good. We can click on Import to import that image directly into the ASA firewall. Now we're done. Let's say OK. And make sure that is selected, not the Cisco one. So it says logo.gif, that's our file. Great. And once we're done, we'll click on OK, and of course apply. Another thing we can add to our portal page is a language selector. So our object is selected. Let's go to Edit. And now let's go to Language. Now these are all the default languages available on the system. Now we can add additional languages where needed, like Spanish, for example. So we can use these, and let's go ahead and enable the language selector. Let's say OK, and apply. And last, let's show you another object that you can add to the portal page, which is something like a copyright kind of text you can include on the bottom of the actual portal page. So let's go ahead and highlight our object, go to Edit, and let's go down and go to Copyright Panel. Now let's go ahead and enable that. And we can type in any text we want. So for example, let's say something like provided by RouteHub Group LLC. Of course, it will be something more copyright related, keep in mind, but we want to kind of show you what that looks like on the portal page. So once we're done with that, let's move up and let's say OK. Then apply those changes, and of course, let's save. So you can see there are a lot of things we can definitely customize or do on the portal page. Things such as adding different colors, different font colors that you saw, putting in particular texts of our liking, putting our company logo, even putting in different languages. So now with everything that we kind of showed you as an example, you can now see what the final result looks like.